a good word, y'all. It's your boy DKB here. So, I can't even put into words how frustrating and pissed I am after seeing the Patriots winning streak go to 15 in what was once again a extremely winnable game by the New York Jets. And we didn't have Zach Wilson throwing picks left and right this game, but he might as well have not even have been out there. We had something like 60 yards of total offense heading into the late third, early fourth quarter, something like that, prior to that touchdown drive that we had. And at this point it's just ridiculous. Zach Wilson isn't doing any better than literally any one of us that is jumping off of our couch, throwing on a Jets uniform, and trying to sling the ball to Garrett Wilson. And high level wise, we talk about this being one of the best offenses that we've been able to build and develop, and I don't think that's changed whatsoever. Garrett Wilson still should be a top 5, top 10 wide receiver in the league. You see him winning majority of his routes, the majority of the time when you go back and you check out the tape from this season so far. We still have Randall Cobb, who was going to be a huge chemistry piece for Aaron Rodgers, but overall, he's still a very, very solid slot wide receiver coming in. Mecole Hardman was supposed to be a huge speed threat for us. He's had, I want to say 3 snaps maybe in, 3 of our games. Jeremy Rucker, we just heard Robert Saleh talking about finding ways to get him involved more consistently, since he's looked like one of our best tight ends when he's been out there, at least in terms of blocking. And he gets a single snap today. And so for as much optimism as I've had, as many silver linings as I've tried to, bring up in the midst of some of these brutal situations that we've been in. And, obviously it's only our second loss of the season. The Cowboys one was very tough. This one hurts quite a bit as well. But I look at this and I can't help but think from top down, excluding, Joe Douglas at this point, although I do have a bone to pick with him as well. I have question marks all over the place. Joe Douglas, if the hierarchy is head coach reporting to general manager who's reporting to Woody or Joe Douglas needs to make a decision. Zach needs to go to the bench. I don't care if Tim Boyle is stepping up. I don't care if you go out there and, Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan apparently have made calls to our team. I don't care if you go and you try to go sign one of those 2 guys. Colt McCoy, it really doesn't matter. I think Connor Rogers was saying after like a breakdown video today that basically we're doing a disservice to the entire team by continuing to strut Zach Wilson out there. I get you being a coach, you want to have your players back 100% of the time, but this is a results driven business, and all we've seen in terms of results from Zach Wilson is multiple turnovers, deer in headlights, running for dear life to our own end zone, and clearly not ahead or a mentality to go out there and drive a stake into the heart of a defense. Even when you're talking about simple vanilla coverages, he looks like he's cautious about everything. Where one person would rip a ball, and this is a prime example. We seen Mac Jones. Nobody's touting him as the true heir apparent to Tom Brady. Nobody is saying they would want him as their first 5 to 10 selections if you had to draft a football team as their lead quarterback. And yet, he can still get the simple things done, manufacture an offense, and if you lose, you say it's because Mac Jones couldn't elevate the offense as a whole, instead of it being the main reason why they've been held back. And with Zach Wilson, the highlight of his career has probably been that Pittsburgh game from a year ago where we say, he limited turnovers, he hit some of the passes that he needs to hit. You can sum Zach Wilson's entire game up by he might throw a dart once or twice a game. They get you excited and you wonder why he can't do that more consistently. And he may lead you to having a pretty solid drive. once a game. Outside of that, you're not guaranteed 7 points, and you're not guaranteed any of those things happening. And yes, we were in the rain and all these other things are going on, but we need to understand this is what Zach Wilson is. Now, I'm still on board with thinking that there has been some level of progress from a year ago to today. But with that said, the plan was still very much so Zach Wilson will be riding the bench because we thought that Aaron Rodgers was going to be lasting the entirety of the season. So I say you go back to your original game plan. Find somebody to replace Zach Wilson. You have two prime candidates that at least have a decent amount of experience, playoff pedigrees, and top level performances to go out there and lead your franchise. Right now, you're looking at a team because a lot of people are going to point to the defense, and one of the things that's irked me a lot is that you see Robert Saleh kind of it's almost coming to the defense's defense, of course, as well, but also kind of ripping them that they're not, kind of like the Rex Ryan days. When you see things coming to an end with Rex Ryan, a lot of it was that the defense isn't doing enough by any standard, right? And you're talking about teams that could hold opponents to generally 13 points or less pretty good majority of the time. You also think about how often we're being outplayed in terms of snaps on each team's offense. Our defense is playing anywhere from an extra quarter to an extra half more than most other football teams just because we can't put together a simple 4-play offense. Even multiple attempts today where we're going 3 and out, and you can make any excuses you want. New offensive line in front of Zach, etc., etc. Things still look better on paper. I don't care about the lack of efficiency from the running backs. I don't care about the new offensive line. Anybody just looking at the eyeball test, or even statistically just taking a look at the chart, you can see that Zach Wilson is a huge problem for why things don't look more efficient. And I think most of us would jump on board and say if Tim Boyle had came in the second half, immediately you would have seen a different team, much like we've seen with Mike White last year. The team is not inspired by Zach Wilson, and I think that is the truest issue with the New York Jets. And so you're seeing a elite defense get wasted. You're seeing elite young talent get wasted, and not only are they going to get pissed that they're not helping win games, but when it comes to contract time, you can bet they're going to remember that they had to deal with Zach Wilson for 2 years. And so really only the defense can take advantage of that, right? Extra plays to go out there, but then you also get into the wear and tear debate. So I'm concerned if you want to talk about trying to go out there and keep pieces like Garrett Wilson, keep pieces like Breece Hall, re-up guys like Elijah Vera Tucker, if you want to bring back a Jeremy Ruckert or a Tyler Conklin. Like, at this point, my concern is, can we continue to piece together a strong offense? Because if we're not going to draft heavily on that side, if I'm heading into free agency or the prospect is coming up in 1, 2, 3 years, I'm taking a look at the fact that we've had a few different offensive schemes. The same quarterback. We've tried to add some pieces, build up some depth, etc. But generally, we've had the same quarterback problems for the entirety of my duration with you coming in. I've been a difference maker as seen with any other quarterback, and still you guys insist on inserting him in. And so, we also heard Robert Saleh mention that he doesn't see this affecting the locker room whatsoever, at least in terms of future state. But I would say the writing's already on the wall. You're seeing Garrett Wilson. There was the flash from the video where Michael Carter was getting into it with Taylor Ombre, our running back coach. And you've seen guys like Xavier Gibson coming up to try to hold Michael Carter back. And Michael Carter has probably been arguably one of our most team-first guys. So to see that was a huge indictment to me. But then if you go to the very beginning portion of that video, you kind of see Garrett Wilson crack a smile at the whole issue. Like, for one, we kind of get his mentality now. He wants to win by all costs, right? But I think in that same token, we've already seen Garrett Wilson flash and kind of, have that hot oil meeting water type of moment where anybody in the path can get it at that point, right? And if I'm a player on this team, there needs to be a mutiny. You guys need to hold whatever player, coach conference you guys need to have, and let them know we have faith in Zach Wilson and maybe what he can become, But as of right now, this is not the guy that's going to lead us to a playoff. It's not the guy that if we get to the playoffs by some kind of magician's chance, that he's going to lead us to a victory. And we need to do something. We have the options, right? Whether you want to go seek a trade, whether you want to go and pick a free agent, it doesn't matter. Any other quarterback is going to give you a decent, measurable level of success within this offense. And we've said it 1,000,001 times, plug and play. This is the offense that I still see being the case. Any legit quarterback worth his salt is a plug-and-play offense. Yes, we'll still have some offensive line issues to a certain degree, but if you have a decent enough mobile quarterback, you can kind of get around some of that. And we see all of the shots, all of the opportunities that either a terrible pass ends up rendering it irrelevant, or he just doesn't take the opportunities to go out there and make some of those plays happen, and they're right there in his face. We don't need all 22s to see a lot of the missed opportunities that Zach Wilson has had. So there was a lot more I wanted to rave about. Definitely a lot more to rant about. I didn't even want to dive into a ton about the game itself, because at this point they kind of ripped my heart out and stomped on it, just seeing us have to lose to the Patriots once again in a very critical situation where, even though right now I feel like it's the Dolphins' division to lose, we would have been 2-0. We would have at least put ourselves in a very favorable position. You never know what can happen with division opponents. And so it's definitely a little heartbreaking, understanding this is still the hardest part of our schedule, all of that good stuff. But, for what it's worth, I'll give you guys, Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz. The rumors are that these guys reached out to the team. Robert Saleh declined to confirm or speak about it, but they reached out to the team about coming on. Apparently, the memo getting sent out is that whoever comes in is going to be a backup, point blank, period. But for what it's worth, Matt Ryan versus Carson Wentz. I think Matt Ryan, on paper, when you look at the statistics and everything, he looks like the more consistent quarterback. Carson Wentz is a little bit more up and down in terms of what you will get, but he brings you the higher upside, the more elite level playing ability when he's out there. So some of the high level metrics over the last 2 years for both of these guys: Carson Wentz an 11-13 win-loss record, Matt Ryan with an 11-17 and a tie on his record. 38 touchdowns for Carson Wentz against 16 interceptions. He has a 44.6 QBR over the last 2 years, 6.7 yards per attempt, and a 62.3 completion average. Matt Ryan, 34 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, 45.5 QBR with a 6.9 yards per attempt for a 67 completion percentage. So again, the more consistent viable quarterback option is probably going to be Matt Ryan. But for the guy that you probably need in an offense like this, Carson Wentz with the mobility, the more statuesque frame to go out there and absorb some of those hits, make some things happen, kind of have that Ben Roethlisberger level playing ability. Again, the higher upside, he can sling it everywhere across the field. I'm putting my bucket in the Carson Wentz hat, but again, at this point, slide me anybody, Colt McCoy, Jameis Winston, the list can go on and on. Next week, give me Tim Boyle. It doesn't even matter, but we got to do something. At this point, I won't be surprised if we start seeing the petition and the airplanes, flying around the facility again in order to make some things happen. I might start one myself because it's very early in the season, but I think this might be the earliest checking out point on the season that I've had in the last, 15 plus years that I've actually paid attention to this team, which is disheartening because we're very much so still in this race. Again, we're facing the hardest, opening 6, 7, maybe 8 game schedule that we've had in quite some time. We're 1-2. We've been in every game, but the Cowboys realistically took a little bit of magic in the first week. Obviously, we didn't have the magic to pull this one out. There was the Hail Mary play that Randall Cobb almost would have been able to make. But still, I don't want to have to live and die by a lot of those. If you're the fact that we're struggling to produce 100 yards going into the fourth quarter and we're still down, 3-6 points, different thing, different kind of scenarios like that, I think speaks to the fact that any other quarterback that can string some drives together, and you're talking about a completely different New York Jets team here. So Robert Saleh, do the right thing. Let's get a decent quarterback within this offense. Let's let Garrett Wilson shine. Let's take advantage of Breece Hall. Hopefully try to get something out of Dalvin Cook. Right now he looks more like I can't even remember the running back. He looks more like James Robinson than he does a Kareem Hunt. And so it also kind of feels like we built into that. We fed into that playoff atmosphere. We should have been it's rare that quarterbacks are generally going down for season-ending injuries, but we really should have prepared better. I think a lot of us would have argued having Zach Wilson as QB3 made a ton of sense. And so to continue to hear Robert Saleh also say that he gives us our best chance to win, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think. Who would be your number one option as a quarterback to bring in? And let me know what rants you guys have. I'll catch you again. Peace.